what I mean by Grand Cru. Grand just meaning big old. So this is a bigger version of this. If you likewise, if you just have a martini glass and you could use a bigger one, that'd be ideal. If you don't have any of these glasses, anything that'll hold fluid will essentially work. You know, as a guidepost. This is just kind of the best way to do it. Speaking of best, let's make sure we're pouring these cold drinks we're going to make into cold glasses. So I've got a freezer here, and I'm storing my glasses. I have multiple copies in here, so that they're going to come out nice and cold. So you're going to want to do that right now if you haven't already. If you don't have room in your freezer, go ahead and take some ice, put it in the glasses, like thus. And then a little water on it, and voila. You put that to the side, and we'll get to that when we need that glass. And so you'll get those, so it'll be ready for you waiting. And right before we pour the drink into it, we'll just dump that out. So get a nice cold glass. Because otherwise, you go through the trouble of making a nice cold drink, and you pour it in a warm glass, and it temps up. It says 2 double old-fashioned glasses. Now that first double old-fashioned glass is for the first little nip. One of these guys, 3 or 4 cubes. This is a jigger. I hope most of you have them. I heard that question, how do you measure? Do you have a measuring cup? Like something, a small one for baking? It'll go down to usually at least 1 ounce, and then you can kind of eyeball it from there if you have to. One note on a typing error. The second drink says dry vermouth. It's not dry vermouth. It's this Golden Rouge, which is hopefully what y'all have, because it's the same vermouth listed in the other drinks. So our first thing we're gonna do is take the vermouth, open it up, and pour 1.5 ounces. In my jigger, the large side is 1.5 ounces, the small side is 1 ounce, and then of course there's more kind of bifurcated measurements on the inside for smaller measurements. So the large side on my jigger is 1.5 ounces. If you've got one of those leaner, taller Japanese styles, often the big side will be a 2 ounce, and there'll be a line down a little bit. That's 1.5 ounces. Either way, we're going to practice pouring that 1.5 ounces. It's going to come in real handy. Pour that in just like that.
Shannon?
Smell it? Yes.
Hi, I'm sorry to interrupt so early. If you don't have a jigger, but you do have a shot glass, do you have any recommendations about relative sizing for the alcohol pour?
Well, is it like an actual shot glass or is it some kind of brand thing?
Actual shot glass.
Okay, an actual shot should be 1.5 ounces.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So you can eyeball it from there. Okay,
Quick
so
question as well. I couldn't see the first step. Are you using a chilled glass or is there ice in your glass?
yes,
Both. Okay.
exactly. So I used a chill glass and put ice in it. If you don't have a chill glass for this, it's fine. So I just poured 1.5 ounces of vermouth on my ice. I'm just going to smell it first. It's like hints of like pepper. Of course, like orange peel notes. And kind of sweet bottom end on the nose. And then a little sip. It's delicious. And there's lots of other like herb flavorings in there that are a little harder to find, but really tasty stuff. The reason we start with this is A, I'm ready for a sip right now, let's face it. But B, when I was growing up, there's all these things about vermouth being bad wine, or you just wave it over the glass and, like don't actually use vermouth. The simple truth is vermouth is aromatized, fortified wine. And if you treat it like it could go bad, like wine, you don't leave it open, you don't leave it open in your liquor cabinet for months on end. because it will just turn, just like wine. So here at the bar, we sell half bottles. So just in case you're nervous about drinking a full bottle in time, but in your refrigerator, this will last at least a month, 6 weeks.
Hey, Shannon, can you repeat how much vermouth you said put in?
1.5 ounces.
Okay, thank you.
And really, you're just drinking vermouth on the rocks here. So it doesn't matter how much you pour in there, but I wanted you to get the idea of you're pouring 1.5 ounces. So you can kind of figure out, measuring is going to be very important because the recipe is designed a certain way. So these recipes, like everything you do, it's going to be easier to make sure these drinks taste how you want them to taste if you know how much you're putting in the glass. Okay, so there that is. Now we're going to do a little grunt work up front. You know, you got to prep before you can eat dinner. We're going to cut an orange, which I seem to have oranges the size of grapefruits. This is, wow, this is amazing. But let's just say your orange is not quite got its own solar system. We're going to cut from pole to pole or from stem to stem, however you want to say it. Go through like that, and then cut the end off. And then we're going to go 1/4 inch. It's like that. You can see. Okay. I'm going to use the smallest one. Because this one happens to be huge. But you can just cut all the way down and, you know, use some of them for drinks, eat the rest of them. It's great. We'll put that to the side for now. Oh, I'll put that right there for now. And then next, we're going to go ahead and take one of them, excuse me, and stick it in. Don't squeeze. Stick it in our double old fashioned. And we're going to just spin this around a little bit. Spin those cubes like that. But we didn't squeeze. Now, before we set where to smell, just some exuberance of orange. You don't really have to squeeze an orange in this case to get as much as we want out of that. So at 70% of what we think of as taste is actually smell. So when you make a drink smell a certain way, you're really adding to the overall sensory experience in a meaningful way. It's not, the garnish isn't always just for the eyes. Okay. Now, we're going to take that jigger again. We're going to measure 1.5 ounces of bourbon. I'm just going to take a spare vessel. We measure 1.5 ounces of bourbon. I'm using Wild Turkey's 101. I'm curious what you all decided on. Oh, good Larson. 1.5 ounces. We're old pros now, measuring out 1.5 ounces. Boom. Take this jalapeno, put the tip off, and then really like 1/8 of an inch little coins. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. Put 4 coins off. I put 2 in this bourbon. I'm going to put this bourbon to the side, out of sight. We're going to come back for that, not in this first drink, in the next drink. Okay, so let's put all this to the side. Our first drink we're going to do tonight, we're calling Rockwell. Now, this is the Durham Arts Council class. So we've made 3 drinks tonight, or we're going to make 3 drinks tonight. They're all named after famous 20th century artists. There's Rockwell, Norman Rockwell, George O'Keeffe, the O'Keeffe, and of course Jackson Pollock is the Pollock. And hopefully we can talk about, if you'd like, why we named them this way. So the first drink, we're going to take our mixing glass. Mine is a pint, but it is a mixing glass, meaning the rim here has been tempered. The reason it's tempered, if you have a Boston shaker set at home, which is a mixing glass and a large tin, we'll make sure it's a tempered one So if you want to shake a cocktail at some point, say it's spring or summer, you can do that and it's not going to break. But for this drink, we're going to stir. So you can use fancy vessels to stir in. I like that, but this one's kind of gigante. So we're going to just use our mixing glass. You can see your ingredients should be listed out really straightforward for you. I like to start with the smallest ingredients first. So if you look at your thing, we're going to start with the bitters and work up. Okay, so the first is 5 drops of the Sycophant orange and fig bitters. If you don't have the Sycophant, you could use some orange bitters, but these are drops, not dashes. Like a dash, which is when you have a different kind of, let's just say we have this bottle here. Normally, if you're dashing, you go like that. And that's about 6 drops.
Sorry to interrupt. Quick question. Any reason I always shake bitters just because for no particular reason. Do you shake them before you put them in drinks or not necessary?
It depends on the manufacturer.
Okay.
Some bitters, so these bitters, this is Angostura. I don't like the original bottle, so I moved it this way, but that's kind of a little geeky. But these two, all the stuff stays in suspension really well. So that's fine. But there's a lot of really interesting small batch bitters on the market now. And some of those, the botanicals won't stay in suspension very well and things will fall out. So tipping them and remixing is a really good idea.
Thanks.
So our friends Craig at Crude makes some small batch bitters. So we'll just, give it a good thing. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going slow. We want to make sure we don't lose anybody. So if you have to stop for a second and take a sip, if you've removed 4 to 5 for the long journey to drink, that's fine. Okay, so then we're working up. We're going to go to a 1/4 ounce of the Dolan Rouge. Rouge meaning red. It's just red vermouth. And then a 1/2 ounce of our cranberry syrup. Now, just like we were talking about with those bitters, this is all made from real stuff. If you look at the back, it just says cranberry, sugar, and water. So things will fall out of suspension. Shake it or turn it over or just give it a quick shake. It should be great. And a 1/2 ounce of this. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the Manhattan, you'll notice that we really just cut out some of the vermouth in a Manhattan to make this drink and substitute it with a little bit of our cranberry. Almost all the good drinks that we make up are no more than 2 degrees of separation from a classic. Because classic cocktails are delicious. There's no reason to pretend they're not. So 2 ounces of bourbon. I'm going to use the same side of my jigger that I measured that syrup in, so that I'm going to clean out that jigger and get all that good syrupy flavor, that sticky syrupy flavor in my drink where it belongs, not hanging out in my jigger. So 2 ounces, so that was 1 ounce, the small side of my jigger. 2 ounces. Well, I have some straws here, these bamboo straws. Just checking my work, So now, if you're chilling your glass with ice and water, it's a good time to dump it. If you got your your small coupe in the freezer, it's a good time to pull it out. Voila. Then I'm going to put this ice in here. We're looking for nice, large, cold cubes, not like melty looking stuff. We're going to stir this drink. To stir a drink, the back of the spoon goes against the inside of the glass, and you're literally just you're stirring the spoon and it's just taking the ice with it. You don't have to like, there's no muscle involved. In fact, unless your arm shouldn't move at all. But you're not even holding the spoon. It's just, you're kind of like keeping it from moving sideways. I like to spin the glass here. Just when it gets cold, I know we're probably there. Thinking about 30 spins, but you don't know, depends on how cold your ice is. You can use a straw like this to taste your work, or if you don't have a straw, you can always put it on your hand and taste for chill. And we've measured everything out. We know this drink is tasty. So we're measuring for two things, cold and dilution. We're gonna let it dilute just a hit more. And then we're gonna pour. I'm gonna use my julep strainer here to hold back the ice. The spoon will work too. Voila. Last step, it says orange peel. So we're going to take this other ginormous orange. Now you can just cut with a peeler, with a paring knife if you want, or you can use a peeler. Either way, I got a paring knife handy, so I'll use it. The important thing when you're using a citrus garnish on a drink is hopefully you chose that citrus fruit specifically. So what you want out of this drink is not just, oh, it looks pretty, although that's nice. First sip is with the eyes. But the really important thing is to extract the oils. So when you're cutting it, remember, we're just getting the skin. We're not getting the pulp. We'll cut it so it faces the drink. So as you're cutting the skin, it's expressing oil. I want that oil on top of my drink. So it smells good. So see, there's no fruit. Like that, like I said, you got a vegetable peeler, that'll work too. Take it very gently. You don't have to mash it. Very gently, just touch the rim of the glass. Then take this between your fingers and then squeeze into the drink. Boom. You can even roll it a bit in your hands. So it's really getting a lot of nice oils. And then really robust orange nose. And if you want, I think that's pretty, but if you like, you can sneak that in and voila. Norman Rockwell. Cheers, everybody. Yeah. Any questions, concerns? How are we coming along? We happy with our progress?
Tasting good over here.
Sounds great. Love it. Always get the large bottle of Bill over
The Chapel Hill Bourbon Brothers approve over here, Shannon.
there. Outstanding. Glad to hear it.
We got a yes from Knoxville also.
Outstanding. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Howdy, yeah, calling in from New York. I don't normally like cranberry, but this works really, really well.
You don't normally like, what was that?
Cranberry.
Ah, well, yeah, this isn't really about the cranberries.
Yeah, no, it's but it's great. It's great.
I'm so glad you like it. Also, the difference, maybe, most people drink cranberry juice cocktail thing you buy in the grocery store, unless it says 100% cranberry. I think it's mostly apple juice.
Yeah.
It's not really cranberry, and this is literally just cranberry.
That's great.
Okay. Question?
Do you recommend drinking cocktails in a certain way?
Do I recommend drinking cocktails
In a certain way.
in a certain way? Before I get into bed, sorry, the question is, do you recommend drinking cocktails in a certain way? I usually after lunch and standing still or sitting, but not reclining. Is there more context to that question that I'm missing? Okay. Then I will continue on. Our next cocktail is the O'Keefe. So the Rockwell, in case you hadn't guessed, has cranberry in it, right? It's all American bourbon. It's the American spirit. Cranberry, all American. Norman Rockwell, famous for all those Americana Saturday Evening Post covers, but also as a painting, one of his most famous works was that Thanksgiving one with the huge bird, ready to go on the Thanksgiving table. So this kind of reminded me of him with the cranberry and the bourbon. We're moving on to an O'Keefe, and this is named after George O'Keefe, who of course did all those skull photos during the Dust Bowl and paintings of skulls. So this has got bourbon in it, but it's also got some spice, ginger, and jalapeno. So kind of a Southwestern thing.
Any recommendations for a substitute of jalapeno? That's the one ingredient I don't have.
Do you have any like actually? You have any pepper of any kind?
Pepper? Did you say?
Pepper, yeah.
Like pepper, like table pepper or pepper?
No, not black pepper. Like any other kind of pepper, like cayenne, not cayenne, but like peppers.
Peppercini. Peppercini.
Peppercini. No.
Like a habanero.
Okay, yeah, like a habanero. Thank you. For some reason, was blanking on the names of peppers. Okay, so not that, but do you have Tabasco?
Yes.
Okay. The Tabasco brand?
No, I have a bunch of different hot sauces, but not that particular one.
Okay, so the reason I mentioned Tabasco, they make a jalapeno flavored.
Okay.
Do you have a jalapeno flavored hot sauce?
No.
Okay. So the reason I mentioned Tabasco by brand is that it's got no viscosity to it, right? Literally, it's Tabasco peppers and a little vinegar, hint of sugar, and that's it. There's really not much there.
Okay.
So it's if you just use a drop or two, you're just going to get the heat. The flavors aren't going to come through. And a more mild hot sauce, you're going to need to use too much of it to get the heat you want without. So do you have any?
I did
find
a chili habanero hot sauce.
Oh, we could use red pepper flake?
Yeah, well, you could if you have to. I would use like no more than 6 of them.
Okay.
Like flakes.
We have that too.
Is that better than habanero hot sauce?
I don't know your habanero hot sauce.
Right.
Like, does it look like is it thin or is it thick?
It's kind of thick, so that would.
Then don't use that.
Okay. Good enough.
And
Thanks.
you can use it in other drinks, but I did not. This drink is not going to work.
That's sure.
Okay. So I still have my bourbon with the slices of fresh jalapeno dancing around in this other vessel. Okay, we're going to work the same way as we did before. We're going to work up, right? We're going to go the orange slice and jalapeno or garnish. So we're going to start above that. I've written this menu a little wrong. I like to use the sticky stuff first, and then the acid. In this case, it's going to be citrus juice, and then it's the booze. The reason we start with the smallest stuff first is in case we mess things up and we dump it out. I don't want to dump my booze out. I really don't want to dump my booze out. So on this drink, we're going to start with the ginger syrup, and it says dry vermouth. I was wrong. Like we talked about earlier, we're going to use this Dole Rouge. So we're going to do. This is a pretty easy drink because it's going to be 1/2 ounce of all these things, right? So 1/2 ounce of our ginger syrup. Same as the other syrup, we want to tilt it over. We'll give it a shake before we use it. 1/2 ounce. Syrup, I'll put it right there for you. 1/2 ounce of our Dole Rouge. Now the juice. Okay, I have this orange I sliced open. Although it's so huge, it may not fit in my juicer, so. Down a bit. I'm taking a separate vessel. You can just squeeze this right in there. Or if you got, wow, it's just so big.
Did you put the vermouth in there?
I put the vermouth in the glass I'm making the drink in. I'm now making orange juice in a separate glass.
Wait, so the vermouth is in the glass you're mixing it or drinking from?
I'm drinking from nothing yet.
Okay.
I have a mixing glass with ginger and vermouth in it.
Okay.
There it is. It's over there. Over there. I'm now just squeezing orange juice. But because I'm not measuring as I squeeze, doing this inside. Yes, but I'm gonna juice for this drink and the next one. While I'm juicing. Once again, like if the drudgery of the squeezing or the figuring out things really gets to you, just, take a second. Relish the past success. Okay, I've got orange juice over here. I'm also going to need lemon. Fortunately, I have a lemon. So take this lemon, cut it in half. Because it's not the Andre the Giant size lemon, it will fit in my juicer. There you go. Okay. Think of the magic happen now. It's orange. Here's lemon. Okay. So, like I said earlier, so easy. Half an ounce of everything. So I'm going to measure out half an ounce of my OJ. Right there, in there with the ginger syrup and the vermouth. And then half an ounce of the lemon. And finally, last but certainly not least, that ounce and a half of bourbon that I already measured with fresh jalapeno in it, just gonna pour that right in there. Now, the last drink is third. This drink, we're going to shake. And it says double old fashioned right on your thing. There's our double old fashioned. We're looking for 4 to 5 nice size, big cold cubes. I know it sounds redundant, cold ice cube. It's not. If it's starting to look like wet, it means it's already melting. If it's too small, it'll dissolve too fast. So you want a decent sized cube. Okay. And then again, right there. Okay. Moving right
Hey,
along.
Shannon,
Got our ice in there. Yep.
did you already mix the bourbon in with the other ingredients?
I did. I just put the bourbon with the jalapenos on top of all the other ingredients, and then I top it with my ice.
Thank you.
Of course. Then we're going to take our large tin. Make sure you have a good seat, and then shake it. So you're looking for like 25, 30 shakes. You'll feel the outside will be nice and cold. Your ice isn't large, make sure you shake it quicker. Now I'm using a Hawthorne strainer here, which is just a fancy way to say that cocktail strainer with the oil on it to hold back my ice. And then I'm going to garnish a couple of pieces of jalapeno and an orange slice. Taste that to make sure it's everything I want it to be. Yeah. You can skip the jalapeno if you don't like. I don't know why you did that. And there you go, the O'Keefe. Just one more stab at that. Any questions about this guy?
So Shannon, is that one on the rocks?
That is on
looks
the
like-
rocks, yeah. So
That's why
I
yours
put-
is so full.
Yeah, I put rocks in the glass, and then I put rocks in the mixing
mixer.
tin, in the mixing glass. I shook, and it's strained onto fresh ice.
Got
That
it,
way,
thank you.
the ice that was already melting in my mixing glass didn't just keep melting real fast. It's just a trick. You start with a cold glass, you pour on the fresh cold ice, and the drink will stay how it was first made longer.
So Shannon, the comment we had over here is this is sort of like a bourbon margarita in a
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, or it's a Mexican bourbon ginger.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of well, margarita is interesting because it comes from, most people would imagine that it's really just a Mexican daisy, which is already a brandy cocktail. It's just it was a French cocktail with brandy, lemon, and triple sec. But they got to Acapulco, and they started using Mexican brandy, tequila, and Mexican limes. And it's because tequila and sugar aren't as delicious as sugar and brandy, but salt is. They just replaced the sugar rim with salt rim. But the same way those drinks go back and forth, and tequila and bourbon is of course great, but tequila is not a classic cocktail spirit in the real sense. But what's fun is that you can plug and play with tequila like in a margarita in drinks that call for other spirits, because tequila comes in the three main categories are Blanc or Blanco, or Reposado, and Añejo, and it really kind of dictates how much wood is on the product. So if you're making a tequila cocktail like a margarita, it's probably usually going to take the place. If you're using Blanc tequila or Blanco tequila, you're going to take the place of a white spirit. It often works. It'll change the drink profoundly, but it'll work in an interesting way in those drinks that you know of that call for white spirits, like white rum. Like you put the tequila daiquiri, it's delicious. It's kind of like Tommy's margarita.
Shannon,
Or yeah.
sorry, man.
That's okay.
I disconnected when you were squeezing the lemon. After the lemon, did you dump in the bourbon with jalapeno bits and shake?
Yes, John. I put the ginger, the sweet vermouth, the orange, and the lemon, half an ounce of each. And then I took the ounce and a half of bourbon that we had the jalapeno in and dumped it right on top. And then we shook it with ice and the jalapeno still in it, strained the drink into a glass with fresh ice. So we put ice in both, shook and strained from one to the other. And then garnished with a couple of slices of jalapeno and a slice of orange.
Thank you so much for that recap.
course.
I appreciate
Of
it.
course, it is.
Shannon, is there time? Oh, is there time for one last question?
Please, I know.
Hey,
I'm not going anywhere.
so I'm the kind of type that have a real hard time following a recipe, right? It's like congenital. And so I always think about how could I change it? Now, in this case, I love this last drink, so refreshing, and I would have it even spicier.
Great.
Is there any downside or anything I should be aware of when I'm tweaking, those proportions, right? Like any rule of thumb of, oh no, don't increase this without increasing that or something
Yes,
like that.
there's a number of rules of thumb. But first of all, you're making these drinks for yourself, correct? Hello?
Yes, sorry, I put myself back on mute, yes.
Okay, you're making these drinks for yourself. So the first thing you need to be aware of is, like I would suggest, make the drink. Like follow the recipe, make it, taste it, then think, this would be better if, like you just came up with the idea, this would be better if it was spicier to your palate. Great. You have a couple of options here. You can either simply, instead of just putting a couple of slices of jalapeno in there, put 4, 6, 8, or put a couple of slices of habanero in there. You've just adjusted. But as long as you know the proportions, the spec of the drink, and you know the ingredients. So let's say you wanted to switch something else out, right? You wanted to switch out this sweet vermouth for this dry vermouth, okay? The drink is going to come out a little drier, a little more aggressive. And if that's exciting to you, then do it. Often what you need to do is consider the intensity of the ingredient you're thinking about, right? So if you want to switch out lemon for lime, understand that lime is a more assertive flavor than lemon, right? It could work in that drink, especially because you think lime, jalapeno. I think there's an entire country that has built their entire culinary thing on that. But just understand how that's going to affect the rest of the drink. So if you like the balance of the drink now, if you prefer the flavor of lime, either use a hair less lime or use a hint more syrup. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you very much. I was gonna say balance, sweet.
Any other questions? I'm just gonna take back to the cannon and relish that initial success. Okay, well then we're gonna move on. This is gonna be the most our next drink, I should say. It's gonna be our most adventurous. So I'm gonna go really slowly through it. But first, before I do any of that, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up all my stuff so we can start fresh. If you'd like to take this moment to do that too, go right ahead.
If we want to go ahead and separate them, how many egg whites do we need?
You need 1 egg white per drink.
Just one?
Just one.
Okay, cool.
It's not breakfast. Okay. Everybody feeling good? Are we ready for the next one? 45 myself. Okay, here we go. This next one we're calling Pollock. And we're going to start right above the line that says egg white. Right? We're going to go from the Sycophant Bitters. We're going to do syrup. Then we're going to do the citrus. I know I typed it out of order for that, but I like to do the syrup first and then the acids because it helps clean that jigger out. And we get all of the syrup and all of the acid in our drink. So I almost always use the bitters first. We're going to shake it because I love that suggestion, especially for these small artisanal bitters. And we have 5 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then going up, this one's a little more confusing than the last one because there's a few quarters and a few half ounces. So it's a quarter of the cranberry. Once again, like that. Quarter ounce of cranberry. Ounce of ginger. And then moving on to the citrus, we're going to do 1/2 ounce of orange, 1/2 ounce of lemon, and a 1/4 ounce of the vermouth. We might as well just sneak that vermouth in now. What do you say? Just a 1/4 ounce of vermouth. Now we're really just adding a hint of those nice botanicals, little sweetness, and color. Right? An ounce of my lemon. Last but, well, second to last, but certainly not second, not second to least. I have an ounce of OJ. Okay, finally. Now that everything else is in there, we're pretty sure we didn't mess it up. We're not throwing anything out.
Hypothetically, if you only had a really small orange and that was it, but then you had 2 lemons, could you double the lemon?
No.
No. Okay.
Hey, don't do that. So how short are you on the orange?
I have no orange left.
You have no orange. You're orangeless. Okay. I would just go 1/2 an ounce of the sweet red vermouth.
Okay.
Let's not add any more fun to the party. But if you double down that lemon has a lot more acid than orange.
Okay.
It's a profoundly different. Maybe it would be one you like. But I don't know. Okay, so now, last but not least, for this part of the drink, 1.5 ounces of bourbon. Did we get it in the chat? What kind of bourbons everybody else is using?
Did you do the vermouth yet?
I did.
No, I missed it.
We snuck in, out of order, the 1/4 ounce of vermouth. So in the glass so far, we have a 1/4 ounce of the cranberry, 1/2 ounce of the ginger, a 1/4 ounce of the vermouth, and a 1/2 ounce of both lemon and orange, except for one person who has tweaked it.
We're running low over here.
It happens. It happens. I had an abundance of orange because mine could have been a flammatory.
We haven't gone to the grocery store in a hot second.
Understood. Okay, now we're talking. So we're going to do a couple of things. I'm going to walk you through them. We're going to shake with ice. We're going to strain. We're going to dump the ice. Then we're going to add an egg white. Okay, it's going to be great. First, our ice. If you are unsure of your shaking and not getting stuff all over yourself skills, use a dish towel. Wrap it around this. Okay. But just like when you're cooking, once the ice is in play, the timer's running. So you get it until you know it's nice and cold, and then your mission in life is to get.
Can I just say that you guys are looking like pros over here? Like I'm watching y'all shaking it up. You look great.
Excellent. So get your drink, once it's cold, off the ice as soon as you can. And then take your ice and get rid of it. Okay. Nice thing about one of these tins is this edge is super thin. Now I have 2 eggs because I could mess this up. So if you do, don't do that. That, just crack it right over the top, like baking cookies or something. And then get rid of the yolk. And then wash with clean. Okay. Now, we could just get to business here if we wanted. We could start, but if you have one of these Hawthorne strainers, this is a little trick you can use. See this spring right here? It's held on here by these 2 little arms. You can just pull it back and get the foil to come off and drop that in right there. We're basically just going to whip the egg now. So what we want to do is make sure that it's whipped. And if you put this in here, it's going to function as a whisk. You get my glass ready. It's right here. If you don't have this or you can't get it off, you don't have to. It just makes life easier. So now I'm going to pour this mixing glass into my tin. So I'm pouring all the liquid into the egg. And then, once again, feel like you're going to get this on yourself, kitchen towel. Now, it's an odd shake because it doesn't really make a lot of noise. You don't get any points for ferocity, like raw power or speed. In fact, a nice long throw is probably best. And you're just, I can't tell you, shake it 12.5 times. It's not about that. Just shake it until you feel it kind of get fluffy. You can feel it.
Is it supposed to get thick? Like, is that how we're supposed to be feeling it?
Yeah, it gets thicker, which ends up making it feel lighter. Because the reason it's getting thicker is you're forcing air in there.
Okay.
It's weird. Usually when things get thick, they get heavier because you're removing water. We're not removing water, we're forcing air. That's more than
Like how foamy should this look?
Pretty. So I'm going to pour it through a fine mesh strainer to make my bubbles smaller, but I'm going to pour it quickly so I get all the fluid fast. And if I get too much foam, it'll stay in the thing. So here we go. So now if I get too high, I can always do that. And I didn't lose any drink, just lost a little foam. Okay. Last but not least, this is the fun part. I suggest maybe you get a kitchen towel or something and spread it underneath the drink. I happen to have a bar mat, so I'm pretty bulletproof here. But you want to put this on something where if something gets something, you know, some of the sticky stuff gets someplace, no problem. This is the fun part. This is what five-year-olds would drink if they were allowed to drink booze. So we're gonna go 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're gonna shake that up a little bit. Spoon, just a tiny little bit. Just drizzle it across, streak it across the top.
Is that the ginger?
That is the ginger. But we're going to do it with the ginger and the cranberry. So
Wait.
whatever one you start with.
Wait, how many drops of bitters did you put in? You put another 5?
I put 5 in and 5 on top.
Okay.
And then I put the tiniest little bit. What am I using as a measure? Drizzle. So like literally maybe south of 1/8 of an ounce. Of both of these. There. And then just like Okay. Hope everybody's masterpiece looked as they hope. And if you want to get real greasy, you can run a little line through it. And there you have it. Should we all toast for the picture? Yeah, let's do that. Everybody, please. Are we almost done making? Looks like we're good. Let's everybody, little cheers to the, to Durham Arts. Cheers. There you have it.
Did you say why you think
Oh, I think anybody who's ever heard of Jackson Pollock can probably guess why we call this one the Jackson Pollock. We could have gone a little more excessive with all the striping and fun and shenanigans. Questions, comments?
Time went by really fast.
It has a way, Time flies when you're drinking. I mean, having fun.
What's your favorite of the bourbon drinks?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me start with this. If we did this right, hopefully a third of you think the first one was clearly the best drink. A third of you think clearly the second one was the best one. And the final third of you think, what are y'all crazy? The third one was the best one.
I see where your math
That's
was
the
at.
idea. I'm hoping that I'm a very moody drinker. Like I drink what I'm in the mood for. Because tonight it's starting to get a little chilly again. I'm ready for this guy, although I'm very much enjoying this. Say April 1st, that second drink is going to be my jam. A little hotter outside, I want something a little bigger and coolerish. So it depends. I like them all. I like these flavors a lot. But tonight, I'll start with that one.
Shannon, I had tried the drink before you put the bitters and the syrup again on top. And I'll tell you, adding those extra drops on top really kicks it up a notch.
It's almost like we did that for a reason.
Yeah, it goes well for the tropics in South Durham.
I see that. I like, Dan, I really like, you really get a whole different climate upstairs.
I'm gonna go get my my palm shirt on as well.
Yes, we got some tiki shirts down here to lend. By the way, Dan, for those of you who don't know, lives upstairs over this bar. So he's a couple floors over us, apparently in the tropics.
Do you have a bourbon recommendation that is good for mixing and sipping by itself?
Yes.
Ooh.
I'm a fan of Wild Turkey 101. Now, I know if you are coming to the party late with all things Wild Turkey, you might disbelieve me. You might associate this. You might think Wild Turkey, Jim Beam, whatever. I'm like, no. These are very different things. This is 101 proof whiskey. It's delicious. I just had some the other night neat just to make sure I was right. I am. It's delicious. If for some reason you like a softer style, now this is a high rye style. If you like a wheated whiskey for drinking as well as for mixing, we like to use Larceny as well.
Yes. Yeah.
I've got a few other recommendations if you like it. Old Grandad 114 is pretty cost friendly. It's another high rye and it's 114 proof. For those of you who wonder why I'm focusing so much on proof, it's not so much to get people wasted, but the difference between 100 proof spirit and an 80 proof spirit is how long they left the water run. And they literally just added 25% more water, like distilled water before bottling, after it's all done. So I prefer more whiskey in my whiskey. I got water on tap. I got ice cubes full of water. So 101 is delicious. And even this is a 92, is that right? 92. Yeah, so I try to avoid mixing with 80 proof whiskeys or 80 something proof whiskeys. They water down too fast. And when we're stirring or we're shaking, we want to make sure that the window between cold and over diluted is as large as possible. Because if you're shaking a drink, the ice is melting or chipping off in shards and then melting. But either way, you're lowering the proof. And if you start with something that's 80 proof already, you can get down to kind of like water wall pretty fast. So it's important to start with something that's at least like 90 proof.
So Dan, stick with navel stringer.
Yeah, Navy strength. It's all Navy strength. Unfortunately, they legally can, but they don't make Navy strength American whiskey. It's usually reserved for gin and rum. But the Grandad 114, I guess technically is Navy strength bourbon.
And this is my first class that I've done with you guys, but have you guys done a gin one? And can we request one if you have not?
We did gin one. Dan, when did we do the gin? Was it 2 months ago? January? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was right before we did the mezcal, the tequila drink.
So we did the gin one. We'll do other ones. We did a very specific gin one. The Durham Distillery, right here in Durham, had released that first of their barrel age series, the first annual release of a barrel, and it just blew my socks off. So to celebrate that, we did our January one with the Durham Distillery's barrel age. So we'll probably do a straight up gin one later in the year.
So are you doing this like per month or is it just kind of random?
Yeah, no, we do this open class the second Thursday of every month. Our next one is Scotch, but it's March 11th and it's Scotch. I'm really excited about it. We got the guys from Glenmorangie to do one. So they're going to sit in on it because we're using Glenmorangie Lasanta, which is their sherry aged Scotch. It's really smooth and easy. And the cocktails, you don't have to be a Scotch lover to like them. It won't hurt, of course. But if you think, I don't know, Scotch, it's too smoky, this isn't smoky. And it's I love your picture, by the way.
Oh, my background?
Yeah, I love the background.
It's left over from my murder mystery dinner, but it happened to be a prohibition style murder mystery dinner, so it worked out very well.
That looks great. I think I know some of those people. So
Well,
how did you enjoy that drink?
This is really good.
And so was that the best one?
I love number 3. I've never made anything personally with egg whites. Like I've had drinks with egg whites in them, but I've never done it myself. This one's just fun.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
Glad you like it. Yeah. So we try to do these classes with usually 3 drinks. The first one's spirit forward, meaning like this one's about bourbon.
Yeah.
The second one's a little more refreshing, generally speaking. Generally has less moving parts than the second one, but this time I couldn't resist. And the third one tends to be more adventurous, whether it's a hot toddy or it's an egg white cocktail, or it's something that's definitely something you probably wouldn't have tried. And then if you look at your list, there's other drinks in here that you can make. That Manhattan, knowing what we just did, if you can make this, you can make the Manhattan. And the bourbon columns will be pretty straightforward. Just build it on the rocks in the Collins class. So when we do the other classes, we do the same thing. We give you more drinks to make, and hopefully you feel more comfortable making drinks.
I can send you, I know someone just said you got the fancy copy and not the other copy. I can send you the other copy. I sent a couple of emails, and so the last email I sent out had the fancier copy. So I'll make sure everyone gets all of the information with the other drinks on it as well.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't realize it was missing.
No, it's okay.
Do you have a recommendation for like a good shaker set? I'm not gonna lie, I was using a salad dressing shaker. It worked pretty well.
It'll work great. That'll work great. Yeah. And you can make some ranch later. Although I think that's they sell that with the packet of oil and vinegar, right?
Oh yeah, well it's perfect. You know, like it strains and shakes. It's got the lid on it.
That's great. Exactly. That's perfect. So this is what I recommend. Well, we sell stuff here. You're welcome to stop by, grab some stuff. If they're not close enough, or that doesn't seem like a great idea, or you're committed to Amazon right now for other reasons. This is a large tin. It's a large shaker tin. Like I got it from Bisky. D-I-S-K-I. Thank you. I got a spell check here. And then you can just get a mixing glass. But make sure it's a mixing glass. I like Anchor as a brand. These are all very cheap things I'm talking about because it's heavy. And then make sure it's got a tempered rim. Like you don't have to, especially if you like. I have fancier stuff because I make a lot more drinks, and I will make them in bulk. But if you're just making a drink for the house, I certainly would say if you want a cocktail and all you have is your salad dressing thing, use your salad dressing thing. But the answer can be as simple as this, and get a Hawthorne Strainer, which is, hold on a second, one of these guys.
Okay.
If you go to a kitchen work store, all of this stuff, you have this, and just a spoon. This bar spoon, it's the cheap kind. You said a little red thing on the end. Like we got fancy ones. But if you're just making drinks one at a time, one that has a little red cap on the end, just pull that annoying off. We'll clown this on. This works just fine. And I actually like the large size of the spoon because sometimes I'm too lazy to reach for the Hawthorne Strainer, and a big spoon can hold back my ice if I'm stirring cocktails.
That's awesome.
Oh, I like the OXO jiggers. They're
Okay.
cheap. They're like 10 to 12 bucks, but they feel good in the hand. They got some heft to them, and they have a third of an ounce measurement, which as a geek, I really love.
Well, next class, maybe I'll upgrade from the Good Seasons shaker.
Okay, that's good. Hey, but you made it work. Improvise and overcome.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Keith. Good to see you.
I have a vermouth question for you. I normally go with the Antica one.
I love Carpano Antica.
This is the first time I've tried the Dolan because of the class. When they're both sweet vermouths, when would you use one over the other for what type of drink?
Okay, so the Dolan depends on what you're trying to make. So the Dolan is going to have a lot less vanilla in it. If you taste them side by side, Carpano is a little sweeter, and the Dolan is leaner. It has a lot less vanilla and a lot more of that black pepper. So depending on what kind of cocktail, first of all, if you're making a cocktail that calls for sweet vermouth. What was that?
Like a Negroni or something like that?
Okay, so exactly. So what do you want from your Negroni? Do you want that extra vanilla so everybody gets along? You know, vanilla is like the soft lighting of any flavor. So if you want more of that, go with that. If you want it leaner and a hint spicier, and just a hint, I mean, it's not like it's a spicy thing, then use the Dolan. I like the Carpano Antica for a lot of things. With our classic Manhattan, I usually reach for Carpano Antica. It is the original sweet vermouth. For sometimes when I want something leaner, or I like that pepper note, when I'm making cocktails, depends on what I'm doing. But just knowing the difference in flavors, or sometimes it's nice to just add variety. Like maybe not every time you make a Manhattan, you reach for the Carpano, which would be my default. So sometimes I'll reach for the Dolan, you know, a little out of town feel. And Carpano's twice the price. Other questions?
I'd like to say that all the drinks were delicious, but I've never just sipped on a vermouth like that, and I really enjoyed it. So I appreciate you introducing me to the world of vermouth like that.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Last class, we had the brand ambassador for Dolan sitting with us, and he had lots to offer about vermouth in general, but especially Dolan, which is French. So it started. They invented the category of sweet white vermouth or blanc vermouth. which is not as popular as dry or Italian wet. But they've been making vermouth for quite a long time.
I would add a footnote to that last gentleman's comment about introducing, I think it was 2 classes ago, you introduced us to the Carpano sweet vermouth, the Bianco white vermouth. And that's kind of been a go-to over the rocks, just drinking vermouth. It's just fabulous. It's great for mixing for drinks, but boy, it's just a nice, refreshing drink if you want just a nice cocktail.
So, also, can you kind of touch back on how long you should have a vermouth? Like, I know this is a half bottle, but how long is too long to have a vermouth open?
Okay, so a couple of things. First, just like Dan said, just drinking it is lovely. So if you are afraid of how long it's going to last, I would suggest drinking it. Like, just don't let it go bad.
Okay.
And remember that these things, these vermouths, these aromatized fortified wines, the most famous subcategory of aromatized fortified wine is vermouth, but there are others. They were made to be consumed by themselves, like on rocks, maybe with a little piece of fruit in there, but like that was the original intention. The companies love the fact that we do all kinds of things with them because we fireball them, but they're delicious on their own. Let's just get that out. So, more to you, Dan. So one thing that I really love the way Jake Parrott in our last class mentioned specifically was that a good rule of thumb is the more sugar, the longer it's going to last.
Okay.
So if I had Blanc here, this is going to last a few weeks. This is going to last maybe 4 weeks, and this is going to last maybe 6 weeks. Okay, so the sweeter it is, the longer it's going to last. Now, when I say last, I mean in the refrigerator, not like on your counter.
Okay, so put it in the refrigerator.
But it's not going bad. It's just getting decidedly less interesting. Right? It's just kind of flattening out and becoming like and if all else goes bad, Blanc sauce, when you're cooking, was originally made with dry vermouth. So like if you have to, there's an emergency exit. But I would recommend just drinking.
If you want to go choose a pizza, we might.
Sounds like there's a question I can't hear.
One more question.
Yeah,
you said that you guys sell a lot of this stuff. So what are your favorite? Alley 26 is one of my favorite bars. I hope that you guys are opening on Friday since everything's changing down here in North Carolina. But what are your favorite things that you guys sell, like the mixers that we should buy to stock our bar? Well,
We have our gear, like the strainers and the jiggers, which really are like jiggers important. But then we also have a wall of vermouth. Well, it's not a wall; it's a shelf, but you get it. It's getting to be a wall, and we're continuing to grow that. So the gentleman's question earlier about whether to try Carpano or Dolan, my answer is yes. And yes, dozens of times. We have lots and lots and lots of vermouths, and the whole category is really interesting and different in fundamentally delicious, really delicious ways. And then we're also flushing out our bitters selection. So those are the things that I'm really excited about. Also, before the pandemic, about 4 years now, we've been selling our tonic syrup. Now, we have over 30 different cocktail and food syrups, because you can use them in desserts and stuff. But cranberry syrup can be used on top of ice cream, as well as the ginger, of course, or like over all kinds of things. In salad dressing, you can use that same salad dressing mixer to use either our shrubs or some of our syrups to enhance your salad dressing. But so those things are all available here. And we're really excited about continuing to have that retail going forward, because I'm really excited about really stretching about which vermouths and bitters that we're using here at the bar and that are available here. If you like something here in the future, hopefully you can get some of those ingredients here and you can make drinks at home. Now, as far as thank you so much for your support and saying the nice things about the bar. The governor said as of Friday, some restrictions. We're not opening the bar inside for a while until my whole staff is vaccinated. But we, right now, have people serving drinks in the alley Wednesday through Sunday. And we'll be here starting this coming week, once it's legal. We'll be open till 9. So we can serve drinks right up and maybe a couple of minutes past 9 if necessary. And then mid-March, we're going to like full service in the alley. We're really excited. We have an Aperol Spritz cart. Literally, it's like a hot dog cart that says Aperol Spritz on it, because the fine folks at Aperol gave us this cart, which thank you very much. And we've been using that as our outdoor bar, but we've only been able to put 10 bottles on the ramp. We're starting mid-March, going to still serve out in the alley, but we're going to serve, drinks are going to be made inside. So we're going to be able to use the entirety of our back bar. And so now we can make exponentially more drinks and have our whole bar there rather than just 10 bottles. So yeah, we're going to be offering more stuff in graduated degrees as we go. Hopefully we'll be open inside sometime in the summer and then open to full capacity sometime in the fall, whenever it's legal and safe.
Thank you for being conscientious and keeping us safe. I will say, personally, I hated gin and tonics until I tried your tonic, and now it is my go-to when I go there every time. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any more questions? I know we're over time, but I'm happy to answer questions or sip on a cocktail if need be.
Yeah, a quick question on the syrups. That I'm guessing refrigeration is required on the syrup once you break the seal. And we don't have shrubs here, but shrubs still refrigerate after they've been.
I just recommend you refrigerate all of our stuff. Some of it, I'm not going to tell you which, has enough sugar and has a low enough water activity that you don't legally have to refrigerate them. But just because you won't die doesn't mean my product still tastes good weeks later. So I would rather you refrigerate all of them so that if you forget and then you discover it a couple weeks later and you're like, ooh, that it's as good as it possibly can be. So please do refrigerate all of the syrups. And if you come get some shrubs, I mean, there's vinegar in that. It's pretty bulletproof, but please refrigerate.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, one more time, thank you all so much. You were very, very fun to have a class with, so thank you. And I know some of y'all came from near and far. I think our farthest away were New York and Knoxville, Tennessee, right? We have anybody from further away than that? But we appreciate everyone. Hope you had an amazing time. And I will, tomorrow, not tonight, send you the... Oh, like, give me a second, because we're still mixing our last drink. We didn't get past the jalapeno one, but it was delicious. So we will send you out tomorrow morning. I will send you out the full list, and thank you so much. I will say that Durham Arts Council, if you've been to our website lately, check back late next week. We're launching a brand new website. It's going to be amazing. If you would like to stay in touch with us and keep track of other events like this that we might have in the future, sign up for our email list. And again, just thank you, Shannon, for your time, and you guys for being with me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christy.
Bye.
We're going to leave the Zoom link open. If there are people that want to hang out a little bit, we'll be off. But sometimes people do these things in groups. So if you're still drinking and still chatting, feel free.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you. The Knoxville Catati contingent.
New York too.
Yeah, and New York too. We're getting the New York guys some some jalapenos.
Miss your bar, Shannon. It's always great to work with your staff when I drop into mixers.
Thank you, John. It's great to see you again. Can't wait to actually go in the library.
It's still there, as is the murder wedge, waiting for you.
Thanks, John. See y'all.
Okay, that went well. Key is not to freak out early when they don't respond. Wait till they have a drink in them.